Welcome to another round of the BRSCC Mazda SuperCup Championship. This weekend we're in the Northern Hills of Darlington at Croft Circuit. Now Croft, as we all know, has just recently been resurfaced, which has caused the guys in the SuperCups to cut seconds off their lap times compared to last year. Now after qualifying, first blood does go to Jack Harding on pole position, but the championship leader, separated by 8 points, is Luke Herbert down in second. But there is only 12 points separating the top three with Aidan Hill, but Aidan is currently down in 5th position. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch. I'm going to hand it straight over to Andy to see what happens.
Thank you, Lyndsay. Well, the cars are about to head out onto the grid, and this is the order in which they will line up then. Harding on pole with Herbert alongside, with Steve Roberts and Patrick Fletcher with his season best qualifying 4th on the grid. Aidan Hills and Jack Sycamore are on row 3 together, with Will Stevenson and Gary Townsend making up the 4th row, ahead of Nick Rutter and Ray Worley. Then it's David Henderson with Bradley Kent, whilst George Grant and Chris Richardson round out the 14 runners. Fascinating start of the season, and this weekend marks the halfway mark of the championship, and this man Luke Herbert has that slender 8-point margin. This is the man 3rd in the championship, 8th on the grid, Aidan Hills, but he's made a rocket ship start. Look, immediately goes to the inside of Steve Roberts on the run to the first corner, and Aidan Hills with 2 wheels on the grass is coming through up the inside line, and he will be, I think, 3rd going into the first corner because he's leapfrogged both of the second row men, Steve Roberts and Patrick Fletcher. So it is now the big 3 back out in front. Fletcher drops into 4th, Steve Roberts 5th, Jack Sycamore fresh off his debut podium last time Danglesey is running inside the top 6 as well, as the leading 3 as one make their way out of the chicane. Luke Herbert in the slipstream. Now, how early does he step out here? Does he want to get in front and pull away, or does he think that maybe he needs to bide his time? Well, Jack Harding is defending the inside line, and Herbert almost went to the outside, leaving the door open for Aidan Hills, who he's probably quite surprised to see already on his tail. And Luke Herbert hanging on to that second place by the skin of his teeth, but Aidan Hills really applying the pressure and on it right from the word go here at Croft. Through the Jim Clark S's then for the first time. Harding leads the way, and Luke Herbert ducking and diving already. Keen to get on with this is Luke. He knows how important this point situation is. Oh, but whichever way he goes, Jack Harding is there, and if he dares to go to the outside line, then it's that old story, isn't it? Aidan Hills will be right behind him, ready to dive to the inside line. So Luke Herbert's going to have to be really careful here with how he executes this overtake. If he goes for one and he goes to the outside line, then it leaves him vulnerable to attack from the cars behind. Patrick Fletcher there defending as well from Steve Roberts. That was all getting quite close. Steve Roberts almost taken to the grass there to try and get alongside the 29 car. A lively first lap, but we expected nothing else really. Croft always produces really close racing, but it's difficult to overtake once the race settles down, so the early exchanges are particularly significant. Steve Roberts, I can see, has got himself ahead of Patrick Fletcher now, so Roberts into 4th position, Fletcher down to 5th, Sycamore there in 6th position as they race across the start-finish line then for the first time. Side by side for 4th place, Fletcher to the outside of Roberts. Can't go right on the outside though. Clervaux is a single file corner really, so too is the link into Hawthorn. If you're really good, you can get up the inside through Hawthorn and force the issue into the chicane, but that is a risky manoeuvre. Almost always will end up with at least one of you straight lining the chicane that follows next. So back with Herbert then. Down the hill into the braking zone at Tower. And Jack Harding, having fended off the early advantages of Luke Herbert, is not really having to defend quite as busily this time into Tower corner. That's Gary Townsend running wide though, and that will almost certainly cost him a position or 2 on the run to the Jim Clark S's. It's a very high speed sequence of corners this, and Luke Herbert again is closing on Jack Harding, looks to the right, sells in the dummy, goes back to the outside, but this time Herbert can afford to go to the outside because Aidan Hills is not close enough to take advantage. Now can he take the wide line in and the tight line out? That's the plan, but couldn't quite nose his way up the inside. Then with just 2 corners of not even fully side-by-side action, but sort of slightly overlapping between the top 2, and it's allowed Aidan Hills to close in. That is all the momentum you need to lose for the car behind to take maybe a full second out of you. It is so tight in the MX-5 SuperCup this year, not just between these 3 drivers, but a whole host of others hoping to get onto the top step of the podium as well. So far this season, with the exception of James Blake Baldwin, all of the victories have gone to either Jack Harding, Luke Herbert or Aidan Hills. It's actually Harding and Hills who are tied for the most wins this year, 3 apiece, whilst the double reigning champion Luke Herbert has just the 2. He has been by far the more consistent, which is why he has this points lead. And that 8-point advantage, by the way, that does now take into account drop scores. We're into the middle part of the season. There have been sufficient races now that we can start to really analyse the drop score situation. And Luke Herbert, even with drop scores, even though he's dropping more points maybe than people people particularly like Aidan Hills, he is still in front, 8 points ahead of Harding, 12 ahead of Hills, and Steve Roberts now 38 points off the championship lead. Sort of the nearly man, isn't he, this year, Steve Roberts? He's been there or thereabouts. He's got himself a couple of podium finishes this year, but hasn't yet been able to break through and get that maiden victory of 2019. Can Luke Herbert go about getting his third win of 2019? I wonder. Well, he's all over the back of Jack Harding again. This certainly seems to be the part of the circuit at which Herbert is quicker, but he daren't go to that outside line. Because Aidan Hills is there. Hills again, though, because he's not under pressure from the cars behind. He can go to the outside, but to no avail. Never going to go right round the outside of Sonny. You instead want to try and cut back to the inside on the exit of that sequence, but that is difficult to do, as Luke Herbert has shown on previous laps when he's tried it. Now he's going to the outside of Herbert again, of Harding again, who is really having to defend busily now, and that's bringing Steve Roberts into play. So it's now 4 cars for the race lead as they come through the complex for the 3rd time, and Luke Herbert almost into the back of Jack Harding there. Look to the inside of the hairpin, which is one of the better overtaking opportunities, but it's fairly easy to defend there, especially since if you run out wide, it doesn't really matter because you still have the inside line for Clervaux, the first corner, at the end of this long straight. Hills now starting to apply the pressure to Luke Herbert. Clervaux, you don't do really enough braking into that corner to outbrake someone up the inside, so it's a tricky place to overtake, Croft. You've got ample opportunities to get the slipstream, but then doing something with that slipstream is not as easy here as it would be somewhere like Snetterton or Silverstone or even Donington Park, for example. Corners here tend to tighten up quite quickly. You have to go single file through most of them, so you have to get your moves done in a straight line, and the straights aren't really long enough for that, so you tend to get this stalemate situation quite a lot, where you've got a group of cars all itching to have a go at each other, but knowing that one false move will put them right to the back of the pack, and it will be very difficult then to regain that lost ground. Through the Jim Clark S's, Hill's clobbering the curbs there as he tries now to up for an attack on Luke Herbert. Luke's not quite as close to Harding on this occasion. Patrick Fletcher looking 5th, he's not far behind them. And then it's Will Stevenson who started 7th, so he's gained 1 position at the expense of Jack Sycamore, who, as I said, got that first ever podium in the category in race 2 at Anglesey last time out. That little pair are some way off now, the leading group, who are heading into the complex once again. And Luke Herbert looks to the inside at the middle part of the complex, but Harding sees it coming a mile off, covers the move off, and thankfully they avoid contact. It's very easy to make contact between the 2 cars through that very tight right-hander. Stevenson and Sycamore still duelling away. Jack Sycamore 7th in the points, and only about 16 points behind Patrick Fletcher for 6th, who is only 5 points behind Will Stacey, who is not here this weekend, so we could see a shuffle behind the top 4 in the championship standings as well, and we might just get a shuffle inside the top 4 in this race pretty soon, because Luke Herbert was all over Jack Harding there, looking to the outside. He looks significantly quicker than Harding, but a lot of that will be as a result of this slipstream. Once you get in front, it's so hard to pull away, and sometimes you can be made to look like you're holding everybody up, but that's not really the case. We know that Harding is capable of setting a good pace, because in qualifying he was fastest by about a quarter of a second. Aidan Hills around the outside of Luke Herbert for 2nd place. This is a brave move. Will Herbert leaving room on the exit of the corner? No, he doesn't, and Aidan Hills ends up bouncing on the grass, but he's still quicker off the turn, and he might be able to go through into 2nd place, into the Jim Clark S's. This is such a high-speed part of the circuit, and so hard to run side by side through here, but they do so without a hint of contact, and this could now favour Luke Herbert. He's got the inside line for the next corner, and he will hang on to that 2nd place, but that was ballsy stuff there from Aidan Hills, who thought, well, if everyone else is going to the inside at Tower, I might as well try the outside, but that was risky because Steve Roberts and Patrick Fletcher were right behind him, and he did really well to find a gap back in the traffic. That was the first really concerted effort by any of these drivers to gain a position. Really taking the risk there, Aidan Hills. It didn't pay off, but in the end, no harm, no foul. It didn't cost him anything either. He's still in 3rd position, and Aidan, last year, remember, we were talking at this stage of the year about this unbroken run of 1 podium finish at each round, or at least 1 podium finish at each round. This year, showing how he has now developed as a driver, we're talking about an unbroken race victory record. He's had 3 wins so far this year, 1 at each race meeting, and he would love to add to that tally here at Croft, where he always has gone rather well. I said to Aidan last time we were at Croft that he should feel right at home here, being a former junior rallycrosser, but Croft, of course, having a rich heritage of rallycross history. He raced here back in his rallycross days, but he actually said that this was the one circuit in rallycross that he struggled at, so the only bit of this circuit that he was familiar with before last year was actually a bit of circuit he's not particularly fond of, so certainly not really being able to draw upon his rallycross experience here at this northern home of rallycross racing in the UK. This far end of the circuit is reserved purely for the circuit racers, though this high-speed left-right kink at the Jim Clark S is then the right-hander at Croft. Breaks into the slightly cambered sunny in and out, appropriately named actually for the weather today, which is perhaps a rare thing, some would say. But can he find a way past Jack Harding? Will he want to find a way past Jack Harding? Well, that's a silly question, I suppose. Of course he wants to, and he's trying to get up the inside again there, and he's going to be slow off the exit of the right-hander. Aidan Hills gets alongside, but again, this is the outside line, and this isn't really where Aidan wants to be. He's going to have to force the issue here to try and get back in the queue. Oh, he's just about done it. I think Steve Roberts will be alongside him, but that will be the outside line for Clervaux, the first corner, and so Aidan Hills ought to be able to fend him off. Roberts has the tow from the cars in front, and Steve Roberts, presented with an opportunity to get onto the podium, is not going to roll over without a fight. The Rob Boston racing car pulls alongside Aidan Hills, who gets into the corner first, and Roberts now has to be careful because Patrick Fletcher is right behind him, and in the end, as is so often the case, nothing changes, but that was a brilliant bit of sequence of side-by-side racing there. It frees up Luke Herbert now a bit to have a go at Jack Harding. Down into Tower Corner again, he's in the tow. We can see visibly there the effect of the slipstream as he closes in on that number 43 car in front of him. Harding defending the inside line, he'll be a bit slow off the corner as a result. Steve Roberts also goes to the inside, but not to defend, but to attack. And taps a bit of Morse code onto the tail of Aidan Hills' number 8 car. Aidan is furiously pointing at the leader, saying, "Don't race me because we're losing time to the leading two." But Steve Roberts is hell-bent here, I think, on getting onto the podium, having been presented with an opportunity half a lap ago. All the leaders are again ducking and diving as Herbert goes to the outside down at Sunny. That Hills wasn't really close enough to take full advantage. And now they're all back together again, all 5 of them. Nose to tail once more as they head to the complex. Back to my question almost exactly a lap ago as to whether Luke Herbert really wants to attack for the lead. Of course he wants to win the race, but he is well aware that if he finishes in 2nd position and sets the fastest lap, which at the moment he has, then that will be enough for him to score the same amount of points as the race leader. Score 100 for a win, 98 for 2nd, plus 2 for fastest lap. And Luke Herbert has done that so many times this year, and it basically undoes the damage of a race victory. And Luke Herbert will know that if he's in 2nd place with the fastest lap, he doesn't necessarily have to throw absolutely everything at the race leader here. Hills, of course, is the ever-present fly in the ointment here, and in 3rd position he might be about to join in. Patrick Fletcher definitely is joining in. He's up the inside of Steve Roberts, who has to cut the chicane. He cannot run side by side through that chicane. Now Roberts has rejoined ahead of Fletcher. Patrick will argue that he would have made the move stick had Roberts stayed on the road, therefore he should be given the position back. And Roberts will argue that he was ahead when he went off the road, so he should be entitled to keep the position, and you can see why that becomes such a headache for the clerk of the course when they have to decide whether or not a penalty is due. Hopefully the drivers will work it out between themselves on the track anyway. Maybe that Roberts at some point decides to allow Fletcher through, but right now he hangs on to 4th position, and actually Fletcher has dropped back slightly now. Leading 3 into the braking zone at Sully. That is such a fearsome bit of road, and that is a genuine overtaking opportunity in these cars. Shows the commitment that these drivers are capable of showing. Luke Herbert just can't quite find the overlap that he needs. Harding driving down the middle of the road, defending well here, in fairness. He's fully entitled to do this. It's definitely holding them all up, but why should he roll over and let Herbert through? Because if he does that, he will lose some valuable championship points that he can little afford to lose. Things finish as they are now, of course, he still won't actually gain any points on Herbert. What Harding really needs is for Aidan Hills and Steve Roberts and Patrick Fletcher to get ahead of Luke Herbert. And then all of a sudden, Harding will be right there points-wise, but as it stands, he's not really being able to do that. Herbert is under pressure from Hills, but not an enormous amount of pressure as they slide their way through Hawthorns and Clervaux. Clervaux then Hawthorns, I suppose. As we now go into the 2nd half of this opening race of this weekend. 1 race today, 2 races tomorrow. So any damage that gets done to the cars in this one, at least they've got overnight to get it fixed, but the team still won't thank them for it, and they will not want to take that risk really. This is a circuit that does bite when you go off. You don't have the luxury of acres of tarmac runoff area. You have grass, gravel, barriers, sometimes just a farmer's field to catch you if you fall off the road. So drivers will be well aware of the risks involved here at Croft, but Herbert again continues to get this brilliant run through the S's, but it puts him always on the outside line at Sunny. Had his nose in front, and Aidan Hills sees a gap and goes for it. Fantastic stuff. And Aidan Hills gets second place away with one of the most opportunistic overtakes you will ever see. And Steve Roberts now trying to get a piece of the action as well. Draws himself alongside Luke Herbert. That's the outside line for the next part of the first part of the complex though. And I think that Herbert, yes, will just about manage to hang on to third. But what an overtake that was. Roberts locks up now. I think he's trying to avoid Herbert, and so Fletcher goes through. So Patrick Fletcher gets into fourth position. Roberts locks up again. He'll have flat-spotted those tyres if he's not too careful. What a move that was, though, from Aidan Hills from a country mile back. But this was always the risk for Herbert. If he kept going to that outside line, Aidan Hills was going to be close enough to dive to the inside. Luke clearly felt that Aidan wasn't close enough on that occasion. Turns out he was, and now Hills is into second position. Harding out in front, Herbert third, Fletcher fourth. Roberts is in the gravel now as he starts to get a bit ragged. He'll be a bit frustrated about all of this because he was third a lap ago and then fourth a lap ago and nearly had a chance to take third at Sunny. And now he ends up down in fifth rather than gaining one, ends up losing a position. That is a common sight. So down into the braking zone again, and Herbert losing touch now rather with the leading two. Hills, having got that second place, now sets about attacking Jack Harding for the race lead. Now Hills, over the three of them, really could do with a victory. He's 12 points behind Luke Herbert. That's 6 positions on track, essentially, with a 2-point difference between positions on the road. So he's only beating Herbert by 1 at the moment. If he could double that, then he doubles the points that he takes out of him, potentially. As we said, with Herbert holding this fastest lap at the moment, actually Hills isn't taking a single point out of him, but Harding is now. So if things finished as they are now, there would be 6 points between Harding and Herbert, still in Herbert's favour. That's if Herbert doesn't lose any more positions, and if Aidan Hills doesn't find a way past Jack Harding, which is now looking a little more likely because Hills has been able to reel in the race leader fairly quickly. And he's not under a huge amount of pressure from Luke Herbert just now, and Herbert is looking a bit ragged now as he slides his way through the hairpin. Maybe Aidan Hills is becoming the favourite now as we go into the final third of the race. Across the start-finish line they go again, towards the first corner, on board with the third place man Luke Herbert, who's now in danger actually of losing the slipstream completely from the top two. Hills playing this sensibly, I think. He's not chosen to attack Harding yet. They're trying to see if they can break that toe. And then if Hills does decide to go for it, at least he doesn't have to worry about being attacked by Herbert behind him. Chicane, Herbert's got bigger worries now than going after the top two because Patrick Fletcher is after his first podium result of the season so far. Fletcher's best result, I think I'm right in saying, is 6th. He's finished 6th once this year. No, twice this year, excuse me. Once at Alton Park, once at Anglesey last time out in the second race each time. So he's already on to beat his season best result with a 5th place, but he'd love to get into with a 4th place. He'd love to get onto the podium if he can. There's Bradley Kent turning through Tower Corner. And Bradley at the back of the field at the moment, more or less, with a good gaggle of cars in front of him though. Gary Townsend's there, then David Henderson as well is in that group, Chris Richardson and Bradley Kent as well. So 4 cars dicing, fighting basically not to be last, really. There are a couple of cars behind them, not that many. So this is a nice little quartet of cars scrapping away a bit further down the order. And of course, Gary Townsend, the leading Masters driver. Nick Rutter is second in the Masters category at the moment, with George Grant and Ray Worley making a welcome return, all also running in the Masters element of the race. There is Gary Townsend, the 223 car, the AK Automotive driver, teammate to Jack Harding, with David Henderson, the 36, 99, Nick Rutter. So Nick Rutter is the man that is chasing down Townsend for that Masters lead, but there is a car between them at the moment, and these cars and these drivers are finding equally as difficult to overtake as the leaders are, it will seem. Speaking of the leaders, we're back with Luke Herbert now. He looks to be fractionally closer now to the top two. So he's just bridging that gap again, and this might just deter Aidan Hills from really having a go for the lead of the race here. If Hills starts to feel the pressure, he might decide to settle for second place rather than go for a move that might risk it all. Kent out of the chicane again to try and attack, but so too Aidan Hills. Now, is he about to prove me wrong? He's close enough to Jack Harding here, and this is the part of the circuit that Aidan made the move on Herbert a couple of laps ago. Not quite close enough. What about the exit speed? Pretty even, and again, it's hard to overtake at this next corner. You can sometimes go around the outside here through the left-hander and get the inside for the right-hander. That might be what he's trying, but Luke Herbert, Patrick Fletcher and Steve Roberts are right back with them again now, particularly Herbert, so well and truly 3 cars for the lead once more. This has been a good lap from Luke Herbert. He might even be about to improve upon his fastest lap pace. Goes to the outside of Aidan Hills into the hairpin. Looking for the better exit. He'll have a tow across the start-finish line as well. And Luke Herbert comes to the completion of the lap, and is that going to be another fastest lap? Yes, it is, and we're on to the final lap of the race now as well, so he's guaranteed more or less that bonus couple of points. He looks to the inside of Aidan Hills, late on the brakes into Clervaux, but not really worth taking the risk in the end. Slides out wide, but this is all releasing the pressure now for Jack Harding. He's being able at the moment to pull away at the head of the field. Through the chicane again. Back across the back end of the circuit, down the side of the rallycross course on this newly resurfaced Croft circuit that Lyndsay mentioned earlier on, which means that the fastest lap in this race is also therefore a new lap record set by Luke Herbert. Then that fastest lap that he set is a 1 minute 36.429, which is fractionally quicker in fact than Aidan Hills went on lap 2 of the race earlier on. But then all over Hills as he goes down to the right-hander at Barcroft. Is he about to mug Hills? Well, Hills almost left the door open there. He's sideways under braking as well. Can Hills stop the car? Oh, just about, but he's sideways again though. I think he's asking a bit too much now of those rear tyres, and Herbert senses the chance, gets a good exit from Sonny, looks to try and pull alongside, down to the complex, goes right, goes left. Aidan Hills sees it all coming though, moves to the inside to defend again. Herbert going right round the outside. Can he get to the inside into the right-hander? I think he might be able to. There's going to be contact. Oh, just about. Herbert backed out of it in time to avoid rubbing into the back of the number 8 car, and now has to turn his attention to defence as they go into the final corner. As they come out of the final corner though, it is Jack Harding who is going to take career win at number 18, his 4th of the season, to close on the championship leader. Jack Harding wins, Aidan Hills 2nd, Luke Herbert 3rd, Patrick Fletcher 4th, and Steve Roberts 5th, quicker than you can say them. A brilliant race there between the 5 of them, and some points taken out of the championship leader by Jack Harding, albeit only 2 in the end. Harding wins then, Hills 2nd, Herbert 3rd with fastest lap, then Fletcher and Roberts with Bill Stevenson, Jack Sycamore, Gary Townsend, David Henderson and Nick Rutter rounding out the top 10. Bradley Kent, George Grant, Ray Worley and Chris Richardson are at the back, and confirmation Luke Herbert set the fastest lap of the race.
Jack, that was incredible to watch for all of us at home, but how was it for yourself?
Yeah, it was really nice to qualify pole, but a lot's happened between qualifying and now. Won't really get into it too much, but it's been a bit of a difficult day. So to come home and win is all I wanted to do. But yeah, they didn't make it easy. The slipstream's really big round here, so you can't get away. As soon as you pull a gap, they just get right back on you. So yeah, managed to hold off Luke for so long, and then Aidan got through and then held off Aidan. So yeah, no, great, I can't ask for anything more.
Aidan, you managed to get ahead of Luke, and I think you would have had Jack if you had a few more laps in you there.
Yeah, it was a good race. Obviously starting from 5th wasn't ideal, but got a good start, going to 3rd straight away. And then yeah, it was hard to attack Luke straight away because I had Steve and Pat behind me, so I just waiting to get a little gap to Steve, and then yeah, when Luke went wide round Sonny, I managed to nip up the inside, and then I had a couple of opportunities at Jack, but I didn't want to lose 2nd to Luke, so I wouldn't say happy with sitting in 2nd, but I wasn't too keen on having to overtake him and drop him back. So yeah, it was a good race.
Luke, talk us through that race. It looked like it was a difficult one.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things to do in a race in Mazdas is to be in 2nd, because you've got to try and attack and defend at the same time. And when you've got the driver in front defending, it's really hard to keep 3rd place behind. Managed it for most of the race, but then I had an attempt at getting past Jack because I felt I had the pace, to get in the lead and slightly pull away. But yeah, then it didn't pay off because Aidan got by as well. But we got the quickest lap, so we got points for 2nd place, so can't complain at that.